Welcome back to Sunrise. Today we're turning our attention now to the Southeast in terms of the security, the politics, and more. We've got three gentlemen joining us this morning to weigh in on the matter. Here in the studios, Dr. Law Mefo, who is the spokesperson at Tuku Okawa Campaign Organization for Anambra State. Good morning. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Chamberlain. Thank you.
We will also have Senator Victor Ume, who himself is a senatorial candidate for the Labour Party in Anambra State, and then we'll equally be joined by Sly Eziokenwa, who is a national legal advisor for APGA. He is also the Commissioner for Special Duties in Anambra State, so they will equally be on the program today. Well, Dr. Mefo, you know, when you talk about development in the Southeast, first and foremost is the security of it. There's several people who are concerned about what is going on. They can't place their finger on it, so quite a number of people are trepidated to even get to there. Recently, we saw the attacks in Imo and several other scenarios. In fact, in Anambra, they talk about politicking almost degenerating, if it hasn't already. So even though the parties did campaign last week in that state, so what is your assessment of what's going on about security in the area?
The security situation in the Southeast is very disturbing, very unfortunate. I say unfortunate because I believe it's avoidable. You know, if you backtrack a little over a year ago, Southeast was the safest zone in Nigeria. You know, so what happened? Something happened between then and now. And Southeast all suddenly became the home of unknown gunmen and all that. And I would want to attribute the causes of all this to two essential factors. I believe that those in charge of the political situation in the Southeast haven't done well, particularly the governors. You take the case of Amotekun and Southwest as an example. It's supposed to be a template that should be modified and adapted to the situation in the Southeast. But that is not the case. Why? Because those who are in charge of political affairs of the Southeast played politics with it. That is number one. Number two, I think that the political actors and gladiators are actually accentuating what is going on. Take, for instance, the Anambra State situation. There are camps, physical camps, perhaps a dozen or more, put in place by these non-state actors. It took them time to establish those camps. Where was the state when this was going on? It couldn't have been done overnight.
Who discovered the camps?
The current governor has been able to unravel what is going on. And this is distracting him so much because he is, you know, he's now tackling that as a headwind, without which he will not be able to settle and really implement the beautiful blueprint he has for Anambra State.
Why is it a distraction? Is that not part of why he was elected?
No. You see, if the situation was better handled before he came in, you know, preemptive security measures are always better. When you have such red flags, you don't allow them to settle. You nip them in the bud. If the former governor of Anambra State, for example, Chiwuli Obiano, you know, he didn't become complacent in his second term, he wouldn't allow camps to be set up in Anambra State. And again, there is this spillover from Imo. You see, Hope Uzodinma hasn't handled the security situation in Imo also well. He hasn't. Because he has declared a kind of frontal war with some agitators. So it becomes positional warfare. And when it is too hot for them in Imo, they come into Anambra through Anambra Senatorial, South Senatorial District. That's precisely what is going on. So, you know, we just have to, you know why this is very worrisome? The insecurity constitutes vote suppression. You know why? Fear. We saw it during the election of Soludo as governor of Anambra State. Only 112,000 Anambra state people elected Soludo as governor in a place where you have 2.5 million registered voters. Something is responsible. Fear. People don't want to come out. If you allow this to escalate into, next to 1 month, the implication is that many people will not be allowed, will not be free to come out to exercise their franchise.
It's a little complex what is going on in the Southeast. There are those who say, oh, this cannot be Southeasterners or Routeners sort of havoc. They believe that, the crisis in the Southeast has been imported from where I'm not certain, but they think it's been orchestrated from the outside. I don't know what your view is on that.
See, the crisis, the insecurity in the Southeast, there are 3 to 5 perpetrators. Yes, we have foreign elements, no doubt. You may even have what we call the deep state, right? If you kill a soldier or a policeman, right, you don't expect the agencies to just fold their hands. They can also do something. They can even orchestrate certain situations as a way of getting back to you. But we have agitators who believe in armed struggle. Can we face this reality? Who believe in armed struggle? Who believe, for example, the Eastern Security Network is real. It's put in place to defend the Southeast. So where are they?
To defend the Southeast.
That's what they said they wanted to do.
But the people of the Southeast, whom they're supposed to, or whom they claim to be defending, are afraid of their
That's the problem
defense.
here. That's the problem here. You see, when you allow non-state actors to have reason to raise arms against the state, you have a problem. One can say it's not exclusive to the Southeast. After all, you have full-blown terrorism in the Northeast particularly. You have bandits who have also grown into terrorism, full terrorism status in the South, in the Northwest. You may say so, but then I keep saying that, you see, the insecurity we are facing in Nigeria, they are local. What is happening in the Northeast is not what is happening in the Southeast.
All right. Let's bring in Mr. Sly Eziokenwa. He is the National Legal Advisor for APGA, also Commissioner for Special Duties in Anambra State. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Eziokenwa, on this matter. What would your assessment be, because you are in government at the moment, about the development, insecurity, if you will, in the Southeast, and particularly more so perhaps in your state?
Well, thank you, Chamberlain, and my sister Malvin. Just like the guest in the studio rightly said, insecurity in the Southeast, has been a funny issue for quite some time now. It's not something that started now, and it's good he identified both the immediate and the remote causes of these issues. Bearing in mind the activities of the non-state.
Can you put me back to that program?
But then, as much as possible, try to dimension this because when we talk within the context of what the government of Anambra State has done in trying to tackle insecurity. Of course, as you all know, before Governor Soludo came into office, in Anambra State, we have the Anambra South, and much of the local government in Anambra South, bordering Imo State, parts of Abia, they are almost overrun by these guys, as so to speak. But then, the governor of Anambra State, Professor Charles Soludo, came in and tried as much as possible to tackle this thing head-on. First thing, because as much as you're trying to tackle the current issues affecting insecurity in Anambra State, we equally try as much as possible to get to the foundation of it, because these things didn't start today. And when Governor Soludo came in, the first thing he said during his inaugural address was to actually admit the fact that insecurity is a thorny issue. And Professor Charles Soludo has been at the forefront of everything concerning the Ohanes Ndibo and the Southeast in general in terms of everything concerning the welfare. If you recall, Professor Charles Soludo was the chairman of Ohanese Committee on Planning and Strategy, and that led to or culminated in the Ekweme Square Declaration, where the leaders of thought, so to speak, in the Southeast came together and articulated a 10-point agenda on what will bring lasting peace and solution to all the insecurity issues in the Southeast. The next was the setting up of the Truth, Justice, and Peace Commission headed by Professor Chido Odingalo. This is a government that admitted, yes, insecurity in the Southeast or security situation in the Southeast is not where it is supposed to be. And the government has been committed day in, day out, committing resources, committing personnel. So, it's good we dimension these issues. And as much as possible, the situation we are now is not where we were like a year or 2 years back. The security system situation in Anambra State in particular has...
Labour Party, just a minute. Labour Party accuses you, or your party, I mean, and they think that there isn't any justice in that accusation that your party seem to be vandalizing, defacing, removing their campaign posters, and they think that that may degenerate a lot further from the peace that everybody would like to see, even the peaceful campaign of all parties in the state. What's going on with that?
Chamberlain, I will say one thing. As much as possible, we do not need to play unnecessary politics with certain things, especially the security situation in the Southeast and Anambra State, if I may speak. It's totally unnecessary. There is nothing, absolutely nothing truthful about what they are saying. If you go to everything concerning adverts or outdoor advertising in Anambra State, we have an agency. And these things are regulated by law. Incidentally or coincidentally, the Anambra State Signage and Advertisement Agency was a board or an agency created by the presidential candidate of Labour Party when he was in office. The law was passed by the Anambra State House of Assembly in 2010 and assented to by then Governor Peter Obi in 2010. And the particular Anambra State, or what I may choose to call the Signage and Advertisement Agency law, makes provision, ample provision for outdoor advertising, and tries to create a distinction between normal adverts or normal spaces that you put on those billboards and political adverts. So these things are regulated by law. And Labour Party, as a party, is supposed to be law-abiding. They are supposed to operate within the ambit of the law. If you recall, one of the cardinal principles of the Soludo administration is the observance of the rule of law in terms of how we do things. It is no longer how it used to be, the old norm. Now, this administration emphasizes or hinges on rule of law. Governor Soludo, as much as possible, has tried to accommodate every political party within the context of this administration and the context of, yes. Can you hear me?
So, did they break any law?
Yes, that is the...
What law? What exactly did they do that amounts to law breaking? I think I lost. We can't quite hear you in the studio here.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Okay, go ahead. So, pardon me, we missed that point. So, what exactly did they do that was tantamount to law breaking?
Now, like I said earlier on, the governor of Anambra State has, as much as possible, opened up the space to the opposition to campaign. And even Labour Party will admit that Mr. Governor has been highly tolerant when it comes to everything about this politics in the build-up to the 2023 election. Mr. Peter Obi has been granted the space of the conference hall of the Anambra Government House on 2 occasions. So the issue here is an issue of entitlement. Labour Party feels entitled to everything in Anambra State without complying with the law. Now, the regulatory body, which is the Anambra State Signage and Advertisement Agency, has provisions for payment for outdoor advertisement spaces. So one, these spaces are owned by practitioners. The billboards you see around the state, they are owned by practitioners. It is the signage agency collaborates or interfaces with practitioners. So within the context of political advert, there are two payments that you need to make. The first one is the payment you are making to rent those spaces from practitioners. That is given. When you rent those spaces, it doesn't still stop the fact that you are supposed to pay the relevant or requisite advert rate to the signage agency.
Yeah,
so,
Mr. Okenwa, I understand you're trying to give us a background of what transpired, but I hope you also understand why I interject, because we need to know, they say they have images of agents of state removing and defacing their posters. So could you explain that? Did that happen? What law did they break if that happened? Okay, we'll just go on the break. We'll due for a break incidentally, but just give us a minute. We will be back and continue this conversation. Stay with us. Could you go ahead and you were going to tell us what exactly happened, why Labour Party's posters were removed? What law did they break?
Thank you very much. Like I said, we have the Anambra State Signage and Advertisement Agency law, which creates the body called the Anambra State Signage and Advertisement Agency. That law was passed in 2010, assented to by Governor Peter Obi then as the governor of Anambra State. Now, that law in Section 5 empowers the agency to regulate outdoor advertising, including political advertisement. And you will know, during every political era, political advert, especially posters, defaces the environment. So the agency, as a means of cleaning up the environment, tried to separate core political adverts from normal.
Okay, we seem to, you're trading in and out, and so we can't, we'll try and address that because we can't hear you here in the studio, so pardon me for that one. Well, yeah, I know, it's a challenge. Have you faced the same challenge in the state at the moment?
Well, I wouldn't think so, because such a complaint hasn't come to us as a serious issue. So I wouldn't
because they don't
that.
consider your party a threat to anything at all?
The PDP? You will ignore the PDP to your own peril. PDP is the...
PDP did not win in Anambra State, for instance.
The governorship or which?
The governorship.
PDP has never lost Anambra State or the Southeast in any presidential election since 1999. And it's the presidential election and the national elections that are our focus at the moment. We're not talking about governorship. And again, let me tell you, wait a minute.
Contested governorship and lost to APGA.
Wait a minute. We know why we lost the governorship, and it's been addressed, to be able to engage better in the next election cycle. But the point here that you need to really take to bank is that PDP has never lost Anambra or the Southeast in the presidential election since 1999. It's very fundamental.
But the dynamics are different this year.
I agree. Yes, the dynamics. There are newer headwinds, and I believe that is what you are referring to as the dynamics being different. For example, the involvement of Peter Obi and Labour. Peter Obi is from Anambra State.
Indeed.
And they're good. So he's going to be a factor. There's no doubt about that. He's going to be a factor. But there are reasons why Peter Obi himself knows that it's going to be really tough for him to claim Anambra. I'll give you a reason. You see, I was at home during Christmas, and I took time to go around the communities. A lot of people know that Peter Obi is in the race, but they don't know that he has left the PDP. Do you see the problem here? They don't even, Peter Obi is a product of the PDP. He was on the ballot with Atiku Abubakar in 2019 as vice president. This is what the people know. Majority of the people, not just in Anambra and Southeast, in the country. And you see, to teach people the difference or differences in what you call party logos, it takes several election cycles. And Labour has never been there. By the time Peter Obi entered the Labour political party, Labour was not present in up to 10% of the electoral political space in Nigeria. And that's a fact.
So you're hoping to ride on the ignorance of the people?
Well, see, in politics, right? In politics, if whatever can help you, win fairly is okay. If you want to look at it from that perspective. It's not our duty to teach the people about the Labour legal, right? If they are mistaking Peter Obi for PDP, for me it's good, right? But that is not our main strategy. We are looking at activating the political structure of the PDP. PDP has been there since 1998. It has been on ground. Anambra State is a PDP state.
You're still looking at activating. I mean,
no. It's only
how many days to the presidential elections?
No.
If it's not activated,
it's
right
activated.
Now,
it's activated and running. It's activated and running. But we want to take it a notch higher. We want to drive down now, download the whole thing to the homes, right? That's why we launched what we call, is word-based, community-based, trying to get to the people, to remind them where we left off as a political party at the national level in 2015 and why we have to go back to that.
What makes you think, Chief, that APGA will just watch you do that? Because they are the ones in the state right now.
Yes, we agree. APGA is also a headwind that we are, confronting.
So you have too many headwinds now?
Yes, two headwinds, right? We have already identified Labour. APGA is also a headwind. But Anambra voters are very sophisticated. They know that APGA is not in this presidential election. For example, their candidate, Professor Mahdi, I'm from Anambra, but I don't know him.
It is interesting that on the one hand, you credit them with being sophisticated. On the other hand, you say, oh, they don't even know what platform Peter Obi is running. So in other words, the candidate, Peter Obi, is an acceptable candidate to them. They have absolutely no problems with their son in the race. In fact, they intend to support him. It means that your candidate, the candidate of the PDP, is going to be a rather difficult sell to the people of Anambra.
It shouldn't be. You see, Peter Obi stands a chance in Anambra. No doubt. That's his state. Do you understand that? But for me, the PDP party structure in the state is something you cannot just wish away. That's a fact. And we have come up with a process that will revive everything PDP in Anambra State. And it's already working. For example, you have 326 awards in Anambra State. And we have put in place measures, processes that will ensure a minimum of 1,000 votes from each. That gives you a baseline of 326,000 votes.
Has your candidate gone
That's a minimum, irreducible minimum.
Has your candidate gone to Anambra to campaign yet?
Of course, yes. It was a very wonderful outcome. I was there, and the channels was there also. And Atiku's campaign in Anambra should be one of the finest. In fact, himself confessed there and then that he was overwhelmed by the love, the outpouring of love, and the sheer number of people that came out to welcome him.
What is it promising the people? What is your candidate? What's the PDP promising the people of Anambra specifically and the Southeast in
general? Very beautiful question. You see, there are two things Atiku Okowa presidency, promises that resonates well with Anambra. The commissioner that spoke now talked about the 2018 gathering of Igbo elites where they affirmed their position on Nigeria. The minimum demand of Igbo and Anambra is a restructured Nigeria.
All right.
And and one more moment.
Well,
Atiku is pushing for a private sector driven economy. We are entrepreneurs. We are people embedded in commerce and industry. Such an economy which Atiku promises is
let's check if,
specifically the kind of economy we are praying for.
We haven't heard Chief May at all on this one, so let's check with Chief May. Well, Chief May, thank you for joining us on the program today. Well, we have spoken to the APGA in the state, and they are of the impression that contrary to the narrative that Labour is pushing, that no such thing was done on the part of APGA, that Labour actually did violate the laws, and that's why things turned out the way it did for Labour Party.
Well, I think the gentleman that spoke was really economical with the truth. The signage law which they are talking about has not been breached.
All right, Senator, well,
anyway.
The sound is coming in broken, so we'll try and address that. Apologies in that one. But in the meantime, let's toss our colleagues in Lagos.
Yes, Dr. Mayfor. Thank you, Chamberlain. Dr. Mayfor, I'd like to come to you. You talk eloquently about the Southeast, particularly about Anambra. With so many political parties, not so many now, but the notable ones, APGA, the PDP, the All Progressives Congress, and the seeming divisions coupled with the unrest, don't you think that this would cost the Southeast its age-long agitation of producing the president, leadership at the center?
Yes, we even made allusion to that earlier, that insecurity in the Southeast is causing vote suppression in the zone. And if we allow it to continue without being addressed in the next 1 month, the outcome of a vote from that zone will not be so wonderful. And we have seen indications. I use the Anambra governorship election as an example. That, 112,000 electing a governor in a place where you have 2.5 million voters is something that needs to be addressed. For me, yes, your fears are founded. What has to be done is that the security agencies will really have to redouble their efforts. They need to reassure the people. And the way they go about it in the Southeast is as if they have left the Southeast to their own design. It's as if somebody is benefiting from the insecurity in the Southeast. And if the IGP of police, the army and all the other security agencies understand where I am coming from. They don't need to leave the Southeast to their own design, which seems to be the preponderance now. They need to tackle insecurity in the Southeast so that people will feel free to come out and exercise their franchise.
So if
that's exactly what the issues are here.
So if tackled in good time, do you think the Labour Party presidential candidate stands a good chance of turning in a good number of votes from that region of the country?
Well, you see, Southeast has always been the traditional homeland of the PDP. So that's it. And while we are asking the security agencies to deal with insecurity in the Southeast, is to enable PDP reap from its traditional base.
So as somebody
we know that Obi will do well there also, but PDP structure there is far more superior.
Dr. Mayfor, so as somebody from the Southeast, you don't believe in the agitation for that region to produce a president from the country?
Another good question. You see, I was part of the people agitating for Nigeria president of Southeast or Igbo extraction. Yes, I was. But our political leaders did not concur with us. They threw open the presidential ticket of the PDP, particularly. And by so doing, they opened the door to gladiators like Atiku. He picked it. Since our political leaders have chosen Atiku, it's done for me. What concerns me now is post-2023. What will be the best outcome for Ndebo? You see, for me, if I were convinced that Peter Obi and Labour would win, I wouldn't be here. That's a fact. But I'm not convinced. You know why I'm not convinced? I have looked at Labour. Peter Obi is an excellent candidate, no doubt. In fact, if I could make him president, I would. But he is standing on a very flimsy, very weak platform. Do you know that I was looking at the analysis of candidates by Labour in this.
When you say he's a very good candidate, are you saying he's better than your candidate?
Good doesn't mean better.
No, but because you say if you had the powers, you would have made him candidate.
Yeah, but the fact remains that I don't have the power, and Atiku is in the frame.
But you say if you did, you would have.
Yeah,
which would mean that
it's not hypothetical.
Is a better candidate than the candidate of your party.
He's not a better candidate. Mm-hmm. You know why?
Why would you then have made him president if you had the powers?
I am Igbo. I'm Anambra. Do you understand that? And he's good, really good. So I would make a candidate if I could. And when we were agitating for production of Nigeria president for the Southeast, we had Peter Obi in mind also. Do you understand that? But he left the PDP for Labour. And Labour is not on ground. Labour is not a platform to erect a presidential race. And
I'm sure that Senator Victor Omer would disagree with you very strongly. I see that you're back now. Senator, this is what Dr. Mefo has to say about your candidate. I'm wondering if you agree with him. You have been a member of APGA. Now you're running on the platform of Labour Party. And you're also saying that you're facing some voter suppression in Anambra State. I mean, that is very difficult to come to terms with.
Yes, it's very unfortunate that we couldn't hook up to this program on time. I've listened to what they said, and I can tell you that they've been economical with the truth. The gentleman who appeared for APGA said
oh dear.
I can tell you that that's an absolute lie, because the signage laws were not breached by APGA candidates and the party. What they did was that through an executive order, the governor of the state imposed campaign fees on all the candidates, which you must pay before you campaign. It has nothing to do with the signage law. The campaign fees which they imposed, 10 million naira for any presidential candidate, 7 million naira for senatorial candidates, 5 million naira for House of Representatives candidates down the line. They imposed these fees. If you don't pay it to government, you cannot campaign in Anambra State. That is unconstitutional and illegal. They cannot prevent any duly nominated candidate of a political party from canvassing and seeking for votes. It depends on the manner you want to do it. INEC, that is the regulatory agency that is charged with the responsibility of conducting elections, is only part, it remains, and the Electoral Act itself. There's no place in the Electoral Act or the INEC guideline where it is stipulated that any candidate that has been nominated will pay a state government campaign fees before you embark on your campaigns. This is the unconstitutional action they have taken. On the issue side, with all laws, like myself, I put my adverts through Advertising Professional Council of Nigeria registered media. They pay signage fees to the Anambra State signage agency, and they have been doing that. So the one that caused problem now was the advert they placed over the pedestrian overhead bridge across on Federal Highway. and they went to remove it because the governor said it is a strategic location. Labour Party cannot have it. That Anambra State belongs to APGA. In fact, he did this on the 8th of January in a meeting where he said he will not have it. He was reminded that advert was under a contract, that he cannot revoke. He said he will revoke it.
Well, Mr. May, most certainly one will expect that at the end of the day, just 1 second, that at the end of the day, the Anambra State government will, step in and, say their own part, tell their own part of the story so that there is that balance, even though we understand that Mr. Sly Okenwa has spoken for a bit. But let me ask Dr. Mefo a question. I mean, you've spoken quite copiously about insecurity in the southeast, and of course it applies to everyone, but we're running out of time. I just want to ask you, it's interesting that so far, having been speaking about insecurity, no one has mentioned Ebubeagụ, the program that was initiated by the southeast governors. Is that to say that the program has failed, it's inefficient, or there are other things to consider?
Ebubeagụ was conceived by the southeast governors, even along with Ohaneze and other critical stakeholders, as an intervention agency, regional based, to help the southeast, and is modeled after Amotekun of the southwest. Now, the chairman of Southeast Governors Forum, Governor Devo Mahi, did not allow that agency to take off. He did it. What they now did was to, put something, at state levels, only in 2 states, as a matter of fact. He put together a body in Ebonyi and called them Ebubeagụ, and Hope Uzodimma did the same thing in Imo, called them Ebubeagụ. That was not the original concept. So, to answer your question more directly, there is no Ebubeagụ in place in the southeast. Whatever you see that goes by that name is an imitation, an ugly imitation of the original concept. Because it's not a regional outfit like Amotekun is to the southwest, which was our original intention. So, whoever wants to understand what happened to that original idea should ask Governor Devo Mahi what he did with Ebubeagụ.
All right. As if it's trying not to be worded those days, but apologies, we're not able to get Chief. The connection just seems to be fading in and off. Well, Chief, we'll just try one more time because the connection really is challenging. We don't know if it's improved now. Can you hear us at all?
I'm hearing you well.
Okay, we were about to just wrap up. Could you just give us your concluding thoughts?
Yeah, what I'm saying is that they should leave the political space free without any restrictions against people.
All right. Mr. Sly, are you still there with us?
To what Chief Message. Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, Chamberlain. It is unfortunate. It is unfortunate for Chief Ume to make that kind of allegation against the person of the governor of Anambra State. I can tell you categorically that there was no executive order. Labour Party has been campaigning freely in Anambra State. Mr. Peter Obi just last week held a rally in All Saints Cathedral, Onitsha, and then held a meeting with all the traditional rulers in Anambra State Government House. Yes. So how did you talk about Anambra State imposing a fee for people to campaign? There is no such thing in Anambra State. The only problem we have is...
Gentlemen, we'll sort this out and get both of you back probably and make it a lot clearer so the people can make out what both of you are saying, because you seem to be insisting on your various points. And incidentally, Dr. Mefo doesn't have any challenge